casino capital of Asia, a tiny outpost of sin in straight-laced China, where bright lights lure in visitors to play the tables and sample the high life. Despite, or perhaps because of its louche reputation, Macau has become the biggest gambling destination in Asia. And it's about to get even bigger, quite literally, because it's about to become home for the biggest casino in the world, to be built in record time. Think of gambling? Think of Vegas, that glitzy, brash, notorious gambling town where money flows like water in the middle of the Nevada desert. Running the Venetian casino here has made American billionaire businessman Sheldon Adelson a fortune, on top of several other fortunes. When he opened a huge casino in Macau for the first time, it was massively popular too, and paid for its construction within 12 months. Adelson knew at once that this was fertile ground for his most ambitious project yet.
I felt that if we could get enough land, that I would be able to reproduce Las Vegas in Asia and call it a strip.
There would be hotels, casinos, theaters, and conference facilities. And the flagship resort, a giant version of the Venetian planted here in Asia. The biggest casino the world has ever seen. This is an ambitious project. A hotel with 3,000 suites. A mall with hundreds of shops ranged alongside indoor canals hundreds of meters long. An outdoor lagoon where guests can take long gondola rides. A 15,000-seat arena. And above all, a vast casino floor, almost the size of 7 football pitches. It'll be the second biggest building in the world at a projected cost of over $2 billion. The Macau government welcomes this massive project. There is just one problem. Macau is a tiny territory, less than 1/6 the area of Washington, D.C. on the southern seaboard of China. It consists of a peninsula and 2 small hilly islands, Calauan and Taipa, together crammed to bursting with a population of 500,000. So the question arises, where to put this huge Vegas strip and its centerpiece casino? There just isn't the room.
The government said, well, we'll find land for you. So I drove out here and I said, what land? They said, well, you'll have to reclaim it. It's underwater.
The government is perfectly serious. Not only should Adelson build an Asian version of the Vegas Strip here, he should first create the land for it to rest upon. The whole space between the islands of Calauan and Taipa is to be filled in, becoming the so-called Cotai Strip, crowned with his signature Venetian-branded casino. The architectural mastermind behind the whole project is Frank McGoldrick, who is more than aware of the challenges that building the biggest casino in the world will bring.
Our project in Macau is almost double the size of the original Las Vegas property. So we had the challenge of size. And of course, we also had the challenge of time. We first broke ground in the middle of 2004, and we need to be opening in the middle of 2007. So that's just 3 years to create 11 million square feet from scratch.
Why the big hurry? As ever in big business, it comes down to dollars and cents. Construction on this scale cost megabucks. Adelson's large sands casino in Macau paid back its cost of $265 million within a year. The Venetian Macau will cost almost 10 times this sum. A single day's delay will mean a substantial loss in revenues. So the reclamation begins with sand, lots of sand. 3 million cubic meters or 1,200 Olympic swimming pools. 6 million tons in all are dumped into the sea. Pile it on and bingo, perfect land. Of course, it's not that simple. This sand brought in from China sits on the mud already there, and that sits on top of marine clay. The builders may be clamoring to start, but they can't yet. The ground is way too soft to put a mega casino on. Engineers George Chan and Philip Lai, the brains behind the reclamation process, are very clear about this.
We must make sure that the building is sitting safely on solid foundation. It's a very heavy building, and the ground condition here is very soft.
The reason is that the clay layer has water trapped inside. They calculate that parts of the site may subside up to 1.7 meters, more than enough to break the back of any building resting on it. The solution they come up with is, surprisingly, more sand. 4 meters of sand. All that weight compresses the clay until it can't move anymore, a process known as surcharging. But the water that is squeezed out will need somewhere to go. Enter the band drains, which drain all that water upwards. A machine plunges tubes of a specific fabric deep into the clay. The water squeezed out by the surcharge layer enters these tubes and goes up to the surface. The idea is that within some 3 months, the settling will be finished. 3 idle months before the builders can get started. The clock is ticking. Sheldon Adelson remains confident. He's built casinos before.
As far as we're concerned, this is a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. I'm telling you that because I know we can do it. We've done it in Las Vegas and we could do it here.
Bold words for a man who is in the process of becoming the single biggest private investor into China. 3 months later, and the building can finally start. Even though there is no further risk of subsidence, sand on clay still remains too soft for regular foundations. These are piles, essentially giant concrete poles. They are hammered into the soil, centimeter by centimeter, roughly 50 meters into the ground. They are held in place by the friction of the soil against them. The Cotai site is to use an unprecedented 14,000 of them. But the hotel building itself, at a mind-boggling 730,000 tons, will be far too large and heavy to rely on poles sticking in the sand. There's an obvious solution: to build on rock. Unfortunately, the bedrock here is at least 70 meters below the surface. So the big guns of the piling world are brought in. Just 116 larger piles will be added, but they will be a massive 3 meters in diameter, sheathed in steel sleeves, and they will be drilled out right the way down to the bedrock. Finally, the building itself can commence. But will the scores of contractors be able to meet the challenge? Not just to get it done on time, but to get it done to such a quality that the guests will want to flock here. Just weeks later, and building work has started on the largest casino in the world, the Venetian, in the tiny Chinese territory of Macau. There's a traditional celebration for the start of a new business. It's being held in what is to be the Venetian signature space, a large inner atrium. They call it the Wow Space, after the effect on the visitor they're aiming to achieve. As responsibility for the Wow Space is handed over to the outfitting company, prayers are said for prosperity. Frank McGoldrick, the chief architect, is taking the opportunity to show the pièce de résistance to his client, Matthew Pryor.
So we got all the scaffoldings moving across and coming here, and then we drop down and we're putting the escalators in. Yeah. These curved escalators. We're quite excited about those, actually. They're pretty good. Yeah.
The Wow Space is going to be the heart of the building, almost literally, as all movement will flow through it. It's at the center of the casino floor, and the chief link between it and the indoor shopping streets and canals above. Outside, the water theme continues. A huge lagoon for gondola rides,